And in today's episode, we are staying close to home here in the UK. So thank you for voting on my recent poll. We'll be in the misty moors of Yorkshire. And in the 1970s and early 1980s, this picturesque region was paralysed with fear by a ruthless predator who had come to be known as the Yorkshire Ripper. Very dramatic, I know. As usual, viewer discretion is advised, as we will be dealing with some super graphic details, which of course comes with these sort of subject matters. So as usual, dear viewers, lock the door, grab a drink, dim the lights, and get settled. This is the story of Peter Sutcliffe, the Yorkshire Ripper. Our story begins in Bingley, West Yorkshire, a quiet and seemingly unremarkable town in the heart of England. On the 2nd of June 1946, Peter William Sutcliffe was born, the oldest of 6 children in a working class family. His father, John Sutcliffe, was a labourer, while his mother, Kathleen, was a homemaker. Now, Sutcliffe didn't show any outward signs of the monster he would become during his childhood, but there were subtle indications of the outsider he always felt like. He was a solitary child, preferring his own company to playing with other children, and his quiet, introverted nature made it difficult for him to fit in at school. Okay, so now I'm worried, because if you look at any of my school reports, they say that about me. Where are the bodies? I'm joking. I really am joking. My friends will tell you. Sutcliffe's struggle to conform continued into his teenage years. When he was 15, he left school, unable to find his place in the formal education system. He took on a series of odd jobs, including working as a gravedigger, an experience that some speculate might have contributed to his macabre fascination with death. Eventually, Sutcliffe found work as a lorry driver. The job provided him with a degree of independence and, crucially, it put him on the road, offering him a nomadic existence that spanned across the industrial landscape of northern England. Little did anyone know that this quiet, unassuming man would soon transform these same roads into his hunting ground. Now, Sutcliffe married Sonia Surma in 1974, and Sonia was a teacher who had a keen interest in art, which was the complete polar opposite to Sutcliffe's blue-collar background. Despite their differences, they seemed like an ordinary couple living in Bradford, England. But how many times have we heard that? But beneath the veneer of normalcy, a dark storm was brewing, a storm that would soon engulf the entire region and shock the nation. The peaceful quiet of Yorkshire was shattered on the night of the 30th of October 1975. Wilma McCann, a mother of 4, became the first known victim of a shadowy figure soon to be known as the Yorkshire Ripper. Of course he chose Halloween. Okay, not exactly Halloween, it's the day before, Hallows Eve. If you want to be the boogeyman, do the boogeyman dance. Did I just make that up, or is that a thing? McCann's body was found in Chapeltown, a district of Leeds, known for its sex trade. She'd been struck twice on the head with a hammer and then stabbed multiple times post-mortem. It was a horrific scene that would soon become a sickeningly familiar pattern in the Yorkshire region. From 1975 to 1980, Sutcliffe committed a total of 13 known murders and 7 attempted murders. His modus operandi, or more commonly known as his MO, involved an initial attack with a hammer or another blunt object, intended to stun or incapacitate the victim, followed by a frenzied stabbing or slashing attack. His victims predominantly started as sex workers, but as his attacks continued, no women were safe. He attacked everyone. There was no rhyme or reason to his selection process. Understandably, it led to a terrifying uncertainty in the region. No one felt safe. The streets of Yorkshire were gripped with an all-encompassing fear for this man. Emily Jackson, a 42-year-old mother who had turned to sex work during a time of financial desperation, was the Ripper's second victim. Sutcliffe struck again just a few months later, this time claiming the life of Irene Richardson, another sex worker from Chapeltown. The murders showed a level of brutality and violence that shocked investigators, marking the beginning of a gruesome pattern that would continue for 5 years. Each murder, each attack, was seemingly more violent than the last. Now, what I'm about to say will make you understand why he was known as the Yorkshire Ripper. Sutcliffe liked to mutilate the bodies. adding a horrifying layer to his already brutal crimes. The level of violence indicated a deep hatred for women, which later helped with the profiling of future perpetrators. But again, it comes back to the question of why I started this channel. Where did that come from? It didn't seem like anything in his formative years with his mother was any different to any other time. I've got to dig a little deeper. Despite the growing number of victims, Sutcliffe remained elusive. His job as a truck driver allowed him to travel freely across Yorkshire and the neighbouring county of Lancashire, making it difficult for investigators to link the crimes and track the killer. As the body count grew, law enforcement found themselves under increasing pressure to catch the killer terrorising the streets of Yorkshire. The manhunt for the Yorkshire Ripper became one of the most extensive in British history. Headed by Assistant Chief Constable George Oldfield, unsurprisingly, the investigation faced challenges from the start, mainly in trying to identify his MO, because most killers have a pattern, but the unique and frenzied and seemingly random attacks by the Ripper on women from different backgrounds, different locations, the attacks on sex workers and then targeting women who weren't sex workers, it led to a lot of confusion. But the real turning point, which confused investigators even further, was up to this point, up to 1977, all of the Ripper's victims had been sex workers. But it wasn't until the brutal murder of 16-year-old shop assistant Jane MacDonald that this theory was shattered and sent the investigation into further disarray. Oldfield's team was overwhelmed with information. At its peak, the Ripper investigation involved over 200 officers and processed over 30,000 statements. A card index system was set up to manage information, but with millions of cards to sift through, the system was strained to its limits. Added to the confusion were several letters and an audio tape sent by a person claiming to be the Ripper. These letters, later dubbed the Wearside Jack hoax, misled investigators and took the investigation down a dead-end path. It was a costly diversion that allowed Sutcliffe to continue his killing spree unhindered. Sutcliffe himself was interviewed by police on 9 separate occasions, but each time managed to evade suspicion. I'm not an investigator, but I tend to read people pretty well. And if someone's been investigated 9 times, there's usually a reason. I mean, look at this face. Look at this face. What we have to remember, though, is the police were under a lot of pressure. And despite the enormous resources that were put into this to find the Yorkshire Ripper, they were only human. Now, crucial pieces of evidence, including the matching tyre tracks that were found at multiple crime scenes, were overlooked due to just the sheer volume of data, information and evidence that the case had amassed. Now, the eventual breakthrough came when Sutcliffe was stopped by the police in Sheffield in January 1981. There was some sort of fault with his car, so he was pulled over. A check of the car's licence plate revealed it had false number plates, and there seemed to be on the back seat a number of items used that related to the crimes. Sutcliffe was taken into custody. Faced with this damning evidence, Sutcliffe finally admitted to being the Yorkshire Ripper, confessing to the murders during an intensive 2-day interview session. Peter Sutcliffe's reign of terror finally came to an end in 1981, marking a close to one of the darkest chapters in British criminal history. The arrest brought relief, but it also sparked an outpouring of anger and deep introspection on the part of the public and the media. Sutcliffe's trial began on the 5th of May 1981 at the Old Bailey in London. His defence argued that he was not guilty by reason of insanity, no joke, and that Sutcliffe was on a divine mission to kill sex workers because he was told to by God. Okay, there's that excuse for killing the sex workers. But what about the non-sex workers? Now, caveating, I'm not saying that either or deserve more than the other. I'm just trying to break down that stupid excuse. You're a psychopath, you're evil, that's why you killed them. Simple. However, fortunately, the prosecution argued that even though Sutcliffe may have had a mental disorder, mental condition, it did not prevent him knowing from what he was doing was wrong. The jury sided with the prosecution, and on the 22nd of May, Sutcliffe was found guilty of 13 counts of murder and 7 counts of attempted murder. He was sentenced to 20 concurrent life sentences with a recommendation that he serve a minimum of 30 years. The trial brought to light deeply rooted societal prejudices and sparked a conversation about the portrayal of victims in the media. Many of Sutcliffe's victims were stigmatised due to their involvement in sex work, a fact that was often used to sensationalise their stories and devalue their lives. In the wake of Sutcliffe's capture, public anger was not just directed towards him, but also towards the police and the media for their handling of the case. Protests and campaigns led by women's groups emerged, demanding justice and respect for all victims, regardless of their occupation. The case also forced a profound shift in police investigative methods. The sheer scale of the investigation, coupled with the lack of technology and the overwhelming amount of information to process, highlighted the need for more sophisticated and streamlined systems. This led to advancements in computer technology for crime investigations and a new emphasis on the importance of psychological profiling. While Sutcliffe was behind bars, his crimes left a deep scar on Yorkshire and the rest of Britain. The legacy of the Yorkshire Ripper case serves as a stark reminder of the horrors that can lurk behind the facade of normality. The chilling tale of Peter Sutcliffe remains one of the most disturbing in the annals of British crime history, a testament to the damage one man can inflict on a community and society at large. Now, Peter Sutcliffe died in November 2020 as he served his time at HMP Frankland in County Durham. He was 74 years old. Sutcliffe had reportedly refused treatment for COVID-19 and had underlying health conditions. His death marked the end of a life that had brought untold misery and pain to many people. It also brought some sense of closure to the families who had lost loved ones. Okay, so that brings to the end this episode about Peter Sutcliffe, the Yorkshire Ripper. If you found this episode informative or enjoyable, no matter how much you can find it enjoyable, please do hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification so you don't miss any future episodes. We do appreciate your support and I love talking about them. But until next time, dear viewers, stay safe.